Welcome to Based on a Book, the podcast that decides firmly to keep things simple, then immediately plans the most extra season 4 ever. We're so glad you're along for the ride because we have so much planned. I'm your host, Crystal, and I've hurt my own feelings.
I'm Keri, and I'm going to need someone to explain how this is considered the, quote, greatest love story of all time.
And I'm Lindsey, and I would not consider it an insult if someone called me a saucy witch.
A new Wuthering Heights adaptation drops this month, and we're helping you prepare by reading the classic 1847 novel by Emily Brontë and watching not one, not two, but 3 adaptations from across the decades. But before we faceplant into what we've watched, let's talk about what we've read, because I know we have a lot to say. First, Wuthering Heights is not a love story, no matter what anyone tells you. Am I the only one who went into this thinking it was going to be a love story?
Oh, I 100% went in thinking it was a love story.
I went in completely blind. I had no idea.
I only thought it was a love story because the new Adaptations trailer was advertising it as a love story, and that was my only experience with it.
I mean, I was ready to fall in love again and again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No. If push comes to shove, I could maybe be convinced to call it a romance, gothic romance. This is a gothic tale with hauntings, obsessions, violence, generational trauma, and of course, dark and stormy nights. Our tale is told to us by Mr. Lockwood, the new tenant of Thrushcross Grange. He heard it from the housekeeper, Ellen Dean, and she heard it from a collection of other people. She kind of saw some of it herself, though. Met by less than personable landlord, Mr. Lockwood asks for the backstory of Heathcliff and his wife, and that starts out our tale. Emily Brontë originally published Wuthering Heights under her pen name, Ellis Bell. It is her only published novel and is considered an English literature classic. Keri, I know Pride and Prejudice left you excited about classics, so I want to start with you. What was your rating of Wuthering Heights, and how much do you hate me for covering this one?
Oh, I've been so excited to talk about this because we literally have not spoken whatsoever about our ratings or our feelings with each other on this. So we have no idea how each of us feel. I'm not gonna lie, this was rough, emotionally draining, exhausting, because almost everyone sucks in this book and are kind of terrible. It has my worst fear come to life, where everyone has the same name. This is like the final boss of everyone having the same name.
It is.
That being said, I loved it.
Oh,
I loved every second of it, and I give it 5 ghosts.
Nice.
I gave it a 5.
Another classic.
Even though, there were times where I struggled with it. I can't help that I like books that inflict pain on me. And I was reading this with my mom, and I kept stopping every 10 seconds and to talk about it with her, because I was just so stunned and shocked by everything that was happening in this book, where I felt like I was trapped in this story and I couldn't get out. And she's like, it's because that there's no wins. There are little to no wins in the story, so it literally feels like you're trapped. And honestly, in my personal opinion, this feels like a horror story. This doesn't feel like a love story. This feels like something about obsession and not affection.
Right.
This feels like just a story about revenge. And it's very savage, and it's like revenge of epic proportions. And I think back on these moments in this book, and it makes me sick to my stomach. And I love it, and I'll never forget it.
Okay. Well, Lindsey, we all know that you love a good dark tale. What did you think of this one?
I have to admit, I did enjoy the horror aspect of it, the spirituality, the ghost tales. Like, I did enjoy how dark this book was. And it was very unexpected because, like I said, I went into this blind. I had no idea what the story was about. I barely knew the characters.
Mhm.
So I read the back of the book and I was like, clearly I have no idea what I'm getting into.
Mm-hmm.
This story was obviously a lot darker than Pride and Prejudice, so I will say I did enjoy it a little bit more than that one. And then, like Keri said, all of the characters have the same name. And then we had some POV switches that got a little confusing in there.
Mhm.
So with that being said, I gave this one 3.5 spirits.
Okay. Okay. Well, I thought really hard about my rating as well, because I was mad through this whole book.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a single character that is lovable or enjoyable or enviable. I found myself basically like hashtag team nobody, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I didn't care about anyone in this book. I didn't care what happened to any of them. They were all miserable people. But there's no denying that I felt something. It was anger and hate and discomfort. And to me, the mark of good art of any kind is, does it make you feel something? And I did. So based on my new rating system, so that I'm a little bit more consistent, I give this a solid 4 stars. The characters, although I didn't like them, they were super well developed and interesting. You know, the plot is plotting,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the setting, like I felt like I was there a lot of the times. The vibes were not what I thought they were gonna be, but they were there. You know, it. It's not quite a 5-star for me, just because I was so angry through the whole thing, and I didn't. Again, there's no wins, and I like for there to be at least something I can say about the book that made me feel good in some way, even if it's just by comparison. But like, these people were miserable people.
Yeah.
They were miserable.
Yeah.
So 4 stars for me. And I kind of hate saying that because it really was a book that was so just dark, and that's not a me thing. But I think that's why this new rating system of mine is going to work a little better, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love
So,
that it was all of our first time reading it too.
yes. Did any of us learn anything about Emily Brontë that we wanted to share, or anything about the Brontë sisters that you found interesting?
Something I think is really interesting is the fact that, well, I didn't know it was published. Wuthering Heights was published a month, like I think a month after Jane Eyre, like super like soon, right after Jane Eyre, and it was being immediately criticized and compared to Jane Eyre, and people thought that she was a male author. There's no
Yeah.
way a female is writing this story because it's so savage.
Yep.
And I thought that was super interesting because it is like, I can't even that's the only way I can describe it. Like, it is so dark and savage.
Savage is a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
And honestly, you know, we've talked a lot in the past about how hard it is for male authors to write good female characters, or convincing female characters sometimes. I think it goes the other way too, that it's really hard for female authors to sometimes write really good masculine male characters. But and I mean, obviously I'm not a man, I don't know what it's like to be a man, but of the men that I've known that were miserable men, Heathcliff fits the bill really well. You know what I mean? So that was really interesting to me to think of that. Lindsey, did you find anything interesting or fun that stuck out to you?
I just really felt connected to Emily Brontë. Apparently, she was deeply introverted and reserved, and she preferred animals to society. So
that's right up your alley.
I did read, and I was really interested to learn a little bit more about Emily too. There is speculation, obviously nobody knows for sure, that she might have been on the autism spectrum, because she had an incredibly rigid like structure, schedule. Everything had to be a certain way and done a certain way, and if it fell outside of that, she had some anger management issues. And having family members on the spectrum, that's something that I totally get. And yet, obviously, with that going on in her life, she still was able to contribute such a masterpiece, you know. And that I always find that really interesting, that people want to think that autistic people might not have as much to contribute or might not be able to contribute, but look at this. You know what I mean? It's such a big thing that, we're coming up on almost 200 years of this book. It is a classic. It is a classic for a reason. So here it is, somebody who, again, it's speculation, we don't know for sure, but somebody who was incredibly introverted, somebody who did prefer animals to people.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of get that. Somebody who had rigid structure and anger issues when she was outside of that structure, still was able to contribute something amazing to the world. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's dive into what we watched. There are over 30 film and television adaptations of Wuthering Heights in multiple languages. There are operas, radio programs, and even at least one graphic novel that I know of. We are just one podcast, though, so we picked 3 that we thought would be a good cross-section of audiences. I watched the 1939 Samuel Goldwyn production starring Merle Oberon and my silver screen boyfriend, Laurence Olivier.
He's back.
He's back. It was nominated for 8 Academy Awards and 1 Best Cinematography. Keri, which one did you watch?
I watched the 2009 2-part miniseries starring Tom Hardy as Heathcliff and Charlotte Riley as Catherine and Andrew Lincoln as Edgar, and which was actually very shocking. I'm like, I'm always getting with like the Walking Dead cast every single time, which was part of PBS's Masterpiece Theater programming. This adaptation is actually really fun because this is where Tom Hardy met his now wife, Charlotte Riley.
Oh,
so they met playing these parts together.
Very cool. Lindsay, which did you watch?
I watched the 1998 film starring Crispin Bonham Carter, who we know as Mr. Bingley from the 1998 BBC Pride and Prejudice. Also making his film debut is Matthew Macfadyen, who is Mr. Darcy in the 2005 Pride and Prejudice. So I just had all the Pride and Prejudice people in mind.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
You just copy-pasted.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and compare these movies. They were made decades apart from each other with very different filming technologies available and very different audiences watching. I know we hinted to each other that our movies have all potentially started differently, or our shows. So I guess that's where we'll start. But before we do, please, this is your spoiler warning. We are going to dive into the story now. If you don't know it already and you want to, go read it or pick a movie to watch before you come back, okay? It's worth reading. But go ahead, let's start. My movie started with Mr. Lockwood walking through a horrible blizzard, stopping at Wuthering Heights and asking for a guide back across the moors or a bed for the night. Heathcliff, of course, was an asshole, but has Joseph show him up to a room. In the night, Mr. Lockwood gets up to secure a banging shutter, and he hears a ghost. He looks out the window, and he sticks his arm out to pull the shutter tight, and something grabs his arm and yells, "It's me, Kathy!" And he screams. And Heathcliff comes running, and he goes, "It was Kathy!" And Heathcliff goes, "Kathy!" And he runs to the window, but then he runs out the front door into the blizzard. And of course, Mr. Lockwood goes downstairs and is like, "What is that all about?" And that's when Ellen Dean goes, "It started 40 years ago." And that's how we dive into our story.
Okay.
Keri, you were the most excited to talk about the starts, so I need to hear yours.
Because I don't have a Mr. Lockwood.
What? Honestly, okay.
Yeah, I don't have a Mr. Lockwood. Okay, for context for everyone, Like, the three of us, we did not touch each other's adaptations. We did not watch each other's adaptations. I've never seen another Wuthering Heights adaptation. This is my first time watching Wuthering Heights. And I don't know, is that the same for you guys too?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the first time we've watched Wuthering Heights. So my adaptation has no Mr. Lockwood, which is okay. I'm totally fine with, taking that character out of here. So my adaptation does not go in the order of the book. We start out with Heathcliff calling out to Catherine, where it's like near the end of the book. It's like a little glimpse of how it's going to end, calling out to like her ghost. And then it like kind of goes back, and then it goes to where it's skipping to where Linton is just arrived at, where I think he's not arriving at Wuthering Heights. He's arriving at the other location.
Thrush Cross Grange.
Yeah, Thrush. The
Grange.
Grange. We're going to call it the Grange.
The Heights and the Grange.
The Heights and the Grange. He just arrived at the Grange, and he's being called to the Heights by Heathcliff. And there's obviously like a lot of tension there. We're all like, oh, what if you didn't read the book, you're like, why is there so much tension? Like, everyone's angry, and Heathcliff is like super mad. We'll get into Tom Hardy in a second as Heathcliff, but I'm just gonna touch on what's happening in the beginning. And it goes to like Kathy Jr., where she sees Heathcliff for the first time, and he's trying to get her to the Heights, and then traps her there at the Heights with Linton. And then
which Linton?
The young one.
Just making sure.
Don't get me started. The young one who's trying to marry young Kathy.
Okay.
So traps them there at the house, and then
Wait,
Heathcliff.
That's where yours starts?
That's where it starts. And then Heathcliff is like walking like on like the road out in like the area of the Heights, and looks up in the window and sees younger Kathy, and Kathy's like so angry, right? Sees younger Kathy in the window, and it reminds him in his memory of, what it was with Catherine. And then we're going like backwards to the beginning, and that's how it starts.
Oh, that's weird.
Mine started kind of at the end, and then we go back, but yours starts. But even the book kind of started at the end, and then we go back.
Yeah.
Yours starts in the middle.
Yeah, mine kind of starts in the middle. But like we also get a glimpse at the end of like Heathcliff at his very end calling out to Catherine's ghost kind of thing.
Okay. Lindsay, how does yours start out?
I have a Mr. Lockwood.
Okay.
He is traveling from the Grange to the Heights. It's not a blizzard. It's just raining really hard. So I don't know why he couldn't make it back. But whatever. And it's basically the same as Crystal's. He meets Heathcliff. Heathcliff is an absolute jerk. He looks rough. He's been through it.
Yeah, Heathcliff looks rough in mine too.
Yeah. Well, you can tell they like tried to make him look worse. They aged him. Yeah. They put bags under his eyes to emphasize what he's going through.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you get the story from the beginning.
Okay. This is where it's going to get interesting for me, because I want to talk about the characters. First, before we talk about like whether or not we think they were cast well or played well, fair. I need to know who was left out of yours. Like, we already know Keri didn't have a Mr. Lockwood.
Mm-hmm.
I'm missing quite a few characters. Lindsay, were you missing any?
Not really. I basically had everyone. I think the only people that were technically missing were the Linton parents, Edgar and Isabella's parents, because I know they're briefly in the book.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not in my adaptation at all.
So I'm missing the Linton parents. I am also missing young Kathy, young Heathcliff, and young Linton. That storyline is gone.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it is gone. They have one Heathcliff, one Kathy, one Linton. That's it. Yeah, I know.
Wait, so their entire like young, like their entire storyline of when they're younger?
Not even there. Not even there.
Oh, weird.
I'm watching this movie at home, and I'm like, I don't know, an hour into it, and I was like, I thought this movie was only like an hour and a half long. Where we got to get some kids popping out. These kids are gonna like, what's happening? No kids. Nobody has kids. It doesn't happen.
So what about Mr. Earnshaw? Is he in there? No, Mr. Earnshaw?
The Catherine's father or her brother?
Catherine's father.
Catherine's father is not, well, he is for like a few minutes in the very beginning, but he dies really quickly. And then her brother, of course, inherits the Heights.
Uh-huh.
And he never gets married, so he doesn't have his son.
Whoa,
right?
whoa. Back
He's not
it
married.
up.
He's not married. He doesn't have a son. He is just a drunk. He, like, the minute their father dies, he starts treating Heathcliff like shit, and that's when everything kind of just goes to hell. You know, Heathcliff gets really moody and angsty, and yeah, and
So
that's
you
when
have
he
no
goes to live in the stables.
Francis.
No Francis.
No
Nope.
Hareton.
Nope.
What?
Yep. Honestly, y'all should be jealous. My movie was very simple.
I know, I'm looking at the family tree right now because that's just helps me.
You have to have a family tree for this book.
Yeah, you have to have a family tree for this book because the names are crazy. And obviously it's on purpose to confuse you on purpose.
Yeah.
But it's you, especially in the beginning when you're getting these names and then you're going in the past and then you're like, wait, I thought we just saw them in the future or at present day young. So this is weird. So putting it all together, it makes sense. But except naming someone Linton when everyone else's last name is Linton is crazy work.
Well, because that means his name was Linton Heathcliff.
I know, but like, can we not do this right now? I'm already stressed.
I was so confused, and then like Ellen Dean, they call her Nellie through half of the book, but I didn't realize we had a Nellie and an Ellen. They were the same person.
Literally, whenever we had, because they were calling her Nellie for so long, and I was like finally getting like the Catherine situation down, and then someone said Ellen, and I was like, who's Ellen? Who is Ellen?
Yep.
Who is that?
There was a part in the book where they were talking about Catherine and Kathy, and I don't remember if Nellie was talking about Heathcliff and Catherine, but she was like, no one ever called her Catherine. They called her Kathy. I was like, where? When? It was always Catherine, and then Kathy Jr.
Because unreliable narrator. Because we have so much, he's telling us the story. Mr. Lockwood's telling us the story that he heard from Nellie/Ellen, that she heard from other people, and she also fully admits that she didn't like Catherine. Right? That she thought Catherine was a nasty child. And so she kind of, I think, is unreliable because she colors a lot of her story with not liking Catherine, but also she kind of half wants Mr. Lockwood to maybe go save Kathy at some point, who's, you know, so she's trying to like talk up Kathy, you know, like poor Kathy, whatever. I don't know. So it's the whole time some of her stuff just doesn't make sense when she's telling the story. Like it's like you said, like nobody called her Catherine. Everybody's been calling her Catherine. Nellie, are you not paying attention to the story that you're telling? You know,
I also feel like she really only had to state facts. Like if she wanted people to look bad, she just had to tell them what happened because their actions were speaking.
Oh my god. Oh my god. But okay, so I'm trying to stick to my outline here, guys. we could talk about this book for days.
I know.
So now that you know that half of my story was not in my movie,
I can't believe that.
Let's talk about your cast and whether or not you think it was done well. Let's start with Lindsey, since she already told us no.
Yeah, no.
Just
no.
That's all there is. Just no.
I mean, just the main people. So Heathcliff was played by Robert Cavanaugh. And you know, there's the line in the book, they kept in the adaptation as well, where I believe Edgar says something to Heathcliff about how he could clean himself up, but he couldn't clean the brown from his skin or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Heathcliff was white in my adaptation, and they kept that line in there. It's a Scotsman playing Heathcliff, and they kept that line in there. I was like,
I think,
Mm-mm.
and I can't remember where I read it, but somebody had referred to Heathcliff as ethnically obscure, because they definitely refer to him in the book, because he's like a foster brother, right? Like, Mr. Earnshaw brings him home randomly one day and says, I found this kid in the street. We couldn't find his parents anywhere, so I'm bringing him home with us. That way he at least can have a nice life. And then, of course, he promptly dies, leaving Heathcliff at the mercy of his shitty son. But Heathcliff is described as dark. He is described as dark hair, dark eyes, and brown skin.
Mhm.
Now, in my movie, he's obviously Laurence Olivier. They kept, I don't even know how to say it. It's in the movie. It is a slur, but they kept calling him a dirty gypsy the whole time, like repeatedly through the movie. And so in that movie, they obviously interpreted it as somebody like of Eastern European descent, right? And it really makes me wonder, and I didn't look it up and I probably should have, like, do we even know what Emily Brontë actually meant? You know what I mean? Was it somebody with more like olivey skin? Are we talking a black man? Are we talking, you know what I mean? But it's clearly not somebody from the moors.
Mhm.
It's clearly not a white Anglo-Saxon, wasp from the moors.
Mhm.
So I think it's really interesting how it gets cast and how different adaptations interpret that. How did yours do, Keri, with Heathcliff?
I mean, I had Tom Hardy. So I had
That's
Tom Hardy.
that's an interesting choice,
Yeah, and
really, when you think
I
about it.
yeah, I think his first of all, he's wearing a wig the entire time. That was driving me absolutely insane. I wanted to tear that wig off and throw it in the trash. All right. It was horrific. It was absolutely horrific. I hated it. And he just like his mannerisms for Heathcliff were just doing too much. He was doing too much. It like started off in the beginning. And I was like, what is he doing? Like, and Tom Hardy's not a bad actor, And I don't know. I just did not like whatever he was trying to do. Like there would be moments where I could see the potential that they were trying to do because, obviously, you know, he is a white man casted in this role and not exactly what I'm picturing, but I think like I'm more at this point thinking of like the attitude, the
Mhm.
mannerisms, the almost like the essence of Heathcliff. And it's like he's trying too hard and just not getting it. And also I feel like they're too nice. Heathcliff, it gets wild in this book.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild. And still too nice, in my opinion, in this adaptation. Also for Catherine, too. Like, y'all are making them way too nice. They
No, they
get
were horrible
nasty in this
people.
book.
Yeah. They're literally like, I don't want to say like pulling pranks on people.
Mm-hmm.
They are literally causing physical harm to other people.
Mm-hmm.
They are not good people at
Yeah.
all. They manipulate the people around them for their own gain. They try to manipulate each other. It's awful what they
Yeah.
do to each other.
I think there was like one point where Catherine was being mean to Isabella in the at my adaptation, and Heathcliff was like trying to scold her for being mean to Isabella, and I was like, sorry,
Yeah.
Not the Heathcliff in this book that I just read. That's
No.
crazy.
No.
That
That
would
would
have never
never.
happened. They would have been playing off each other because that was their big thing. Catherine was always saying that I'm Heathcliff. Like, I'm literally Heathcliff. I literally act just like him. We are each other. We do the same exact things,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And he would have never scolded her for being mean to her.
Yeah.
He would have loved it.
Yep. My adaptation, the characters that were there were well cast. Heathcliff was done so well. Laurence Olivier pulled no punches. He was an asshole. He was straight up mean. Everyone knew he was mean. He didn't try to sugarcoat anything. Even when he shows up after being gone for 3 years and comes back looking like a gentleman, he looks like a gentleman, but he pulls no punches. He's still a jerk, you know. Merle Oberon as Catherine was in turns perfect, and then you almost kind of liked her for a minute, but then she'd flip on a dime. So it was like exactly the Catherine in the book who could be that perfect lady for you one minute and nearly scratching your eyes out the next. You know what I mean? She did it so well. Even like her death, making sure to, you know, like kind of make sure that Heathcliff was there, but also miserable about it, like make him feel awful. You know, she just dug it in just right. It was really well done. Really well done.
I love that because I was like, are all the adaptations like not going as far as it needs to when it comes to how mean and like angry that they are? Because
oh no, they were
they're
mean
too
and cruel.
nice in this.
They were absolutely mean and cruel, and I would have loved to have seen how Heathcliff did for the next 15 to 20 years after her death, but that's basically where my movie ends. Is she dies, they rent out Thrush Grange to someone else, and then Heathcliff runs off in the snow. I'll tell you more about the end later. There's a little bit more, a little bit more.
Okay.
But we'll get to that after we get to everything else, because I want to ask us all about our endings.
Okay.
What about the settings, like of the Heights and the Grange? Did they look like what you thought they were going to look like?
What about you, Lindsay? You go first.
I really had a hard time picturing both the Heights and the Grange. I know they said that the Grange was nicer than the Heights. I did not expect the Heights to remind me so much of the Bennett's house in the 2005 Pride and Prejudice, where they've got like pigs running around and a bunch of dogs, and they had it really muddy, and I don't know. It kind of wasn't what I was expecting, but also just didn't know what to expect. And then on top of that, the whole place is like full of dogs. So every scene, there's like multiple dogs barking. So this was very much a horror movie for my cats because they were freaking out the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
Poor babies.
Yeah.
What about you, Keri? How did yours look?
I think mine was pretty well done. I just remember, I don't think mine had a lot of dogs in it. And that was like a very big thing in the story. But I mean, I'm not super worried about it. But the setting was, I think, pretty well done. I think I imagined the Heights to be a little more like messier, also a little smaller. I pictured it to be small. It was very big. It was a very like big like estate whenever they showed it, but I think maybe that's just me not like picturing it correctly. But it was definitely like the atmosphere, like the vibes of it being like very dark. Like the filming of it was a very like dark, gloomy atmosphere.
Yeah.
Whenever they were filming like the Heights and everything. So I really like that. They captured that well.
In mine, like Lindsay said, the Heights is supposed to be smaller than the Grange. The Grange is supposed to be the larger estate. In mine, the Grange was like, I don't know if you guys have ever been to like the White House or the Capitol. It was like that size, right? It was big, and like chandeliers everywhere and columns and marble. It was very not 1847 Moors. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
it seemed out of place. And the Heights was like barely larger than a stone cottage. And not so much with like pigs and wild or farm animals wandering around, but it was like muddy. You could see the stable in the background kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And even inside, like the ceilings were low, whereas the Grange had like, you couldn't even see the ceilings in a lot of shots. And the Heights was very like close and tight and dark and not very well lit. So like the vibes of the Heights were darker and sadder and more claustrophobic. And the Grange felt like you could breathe and there might be happiness here. And there was a very clear differentiation in like the atmosphere of each, and the type of life that they had there. Because the Heights was miserable. Originally, Heathcliff and Kathy, with Kathy's older brother, the alcoholic, making everybody miserable and not paying the bills. And whereas the Grange had Edgar Linton and their dances and their, society life and just happiness and love for the most part. So it was really well foiled each other, but also like so much so that it seemed a little bit shocking to me. Because I was like, I didn't realize that the Grange was a freaking palace,
Yeah.
What about the costumes? Did you guys feel any kind of way about that? Because I did.
I mean, about that wig, man. That freaking wig needs to go, man. I hated that freaking wig. I can't stop thinking about it, and I need it to never cross my path again. And honestly, I was like looking up pictures like of like whenever I was writing up my notes for this, and I was seeing the pictures again of the cover of the movie, and I was like, I gotta get away from this wig, man. This is horrible.
Lindsay, anything about the overall look of yours that kind of stood out at all?
I don't think so. No. It's just really hard to get past the pretty bad acting and the interesting cast choice, but
Oh no. Mine did have like whenever how whenever they're younger, like Catherine and Heathcliff, and they're trying to show Catherine like basically like causing havoc, with Heathcliff all the time. And then, when she goes to and has to stay at the Grange for a certain amount of time, and then she comes back and she's dressed all formal and she looks
Right.
really different. They made like the costume change for Catherine from that point to the Grange point, like very drastic, where she's just like in completely different clothing. Like
Yeah.
where it's almost kind of funny. Where I'm like, oh, this is interesting.
They did that in mine too.
Yeah.
It was like, that's not even the same woman. It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
I do want to say, when Mr. Earnshaw, Catherine and Edgar's father, when he passes away and Edgar comes back to take over the Heights, Catherine and Heathcliff are supposed to be children.
Yeah.
They're young.
Yeah.
They're like grown adults in my adaptation.
Oh, same.
And they're like straight up trying to act like children, and it is the most awkward thing.
They were kids in mine. Different actors, obviously, because they had to be kids. So they were kids in mine.
Yep, nope. It's like 30-year-old people.
Yeah.
No.
Wow. Even like Kathy's older brother was a child still in my adaptation. Not like there was obviously like a 4 or 5 year age difference or whatever, but he is still like barely old enough to be considered an adult, and now, the master of the house or whatever. And Heathcliff and Catherine are kids. They're like 12, 10 or 11, something like that.
Wait, I want to hear about your costumes, Crystal, and then I have a question for everybody.
Okay, well, first, of course, my movie was black and white, because why not? And the costumes were, in my mind, 1939 fashion in a black and white film.
Yeah.
Basically. There were a few times when like Heathcliff is supposed to look like the dirty stable boy, where he's obviously wearing like dirty trousers and with suspenders or whatever, but other than that, like the dresses that we see like Isabella and Catherine wear are very 1939 fashion. Like I distinctly remember seeing pictures of my grandma wearing a dress exactly like that. You know what I mean? So I was like, wow, they didn't even really try. But they got nominated for an Academy Award for those costumes. So,
Oh, interesting.
yeah.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
Did any of your adaptations have spice in it?
No.
Mine had way too much kissing and one groping scene.
Nope.
Mine was spicy, you guys.
Oh, well, I know which one I wish I watched.
Mine was spicy to the point I was shook. I was shook because I was like, wait a minute, I don't remember any of this happening in the book. Okay, like I'm talking like there's sex scenes, there's, a lot of kissing scenes, like all the times that you would assume that they probably ran off and were like kissing
Right.
each other. They were definitely doing that. They were definitely having sex. Like, when Catherine went and married, what's his name? Edgar, like, she was definitely hooking up with Heathcliff before that. 100%.
Wow.
According to this movie, there's a sex scene that we see between Isabella and Heathcliff that is so cringe that it makes you want to literally die inside, where Tom Hardy looks into this girl's eyes and says, "Don't look at me."
Oh my God.
I actually wanted to lose it. It was horrible. It was horrific. It was absolutely horrific.
Heathcliff in mine marries, well, the next step that I was going to suggest is we talk about storylines, but Heathcliff does marry Isabella in my adaptation, and she is desperate to get him to love her because she's realized that he has only done this to, get back at Catherine. And she's like desperate to get him to love her, and she's throwing herself at him, and he's obviously like looking off into the distance, and she's up against him, and he's not even wrapping his arms around her or anything. He goes, "Your hair doesn't smell like the heather in the morning." It's very like dramatic moment, but that is literally the spiciest moment.
Oh no.
In mine.
I forgot there technically is one sex scene in mine.
Okay.
Between who?
Heathcliff and Isabella.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that makes sense. That at least aligns.
Right. So were any storylines left out or significantly changed in yours aside from the obvious spice?
I did have where whenever Catherine is like, she is basically like in labor.
Mhm.
She's like going through all these, I don't even know exactly what's happening here, but she's just having all these visions and all these things. And she, during that whole entire moment where she's like calling out to all these people and desperately wanting all these things to happen, in my adaptation, she literally like runs out in the rain. Like fully pregnant, runs out in the rain looking for Heathcliff. Or like you think that she's looking for Heathcliff, but she's like looking for something. And she like runs out into the rain and is like lays down somewhere outside while it's pouring rain on her. And like Heathcliff like has like this sudden like intuition, like that's so Raven, like he's seeing the future and at the window, and he knows exactly where she is and goes and finds her.
Okay.
And his wig is sopping wet against his forehead. He can't see anything, but he can see her in the distance.
Okay.
He picks her up and takes her to Rick from The Walking Dead. And, okay, I have to say, I actually really liked him. What's his name? Andrew Lincoln as Edgar. I thought he made a really great Edgar. I honestly, Edgar is not like the best character, but for some reason in this book made me cry a lot.
He is the only character that like seems like he might potentially be a decent human being.
Yeah, like anytime when Edgar's like whole ending and like when terrible things were happening to him, I actually sobbed for some reason. I really don't know why. And I cried a lot at this ending with Harriton and Kathy.
Mm-hmm.
That ending like really got me big time.
Lindsay,
For
anything
sure.
major changed in yours?
I feel like plot-wise, it was pretty consistent with the book all the way up until basically Catherine died. And then Kathy goes out into the moor by herself, and she ends up running into Heathcliff, and she's at the place where he and Catherine used to play when they were children, or supposed to be children, but they were adults. And then she ends up telling Heathcliff that her father isn't home because he's gone to London. His sister passed away, and he's bringing back Linton. So that's how Heathcliff finds out about Linton coming back to live with Edgar. And then Heathcliff shows up at the house to take Linton and tells Kathy, "Oh, you can come visit us at the Heights whenever you want." So it's not like they went years without seeing each other. It was like pretty immediate.
Yeah. They're like, speed this story up.
Literally. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, half my story's gone, so
Yeah. They're like, we'll just cut out all of this.
pretty much. Keri, I know that you were interested in comparing endings as well. I'll go ahead and start with mine, because again, half my story's gone. So at the very beginning, Mr. Lockwood thinks he hears the ghost or got caught by a ghost, and he hears the name Kathy, and he tells Heathcliff. Heathcliff runs into the snow. Through the middle of the story, it's all Nellie telling the backstory of Heathcliff and Kathy right up until Kathy dies. And then we flash back to Nellie sitting in the rocking chair telling Mr. Lockwood what's up. And somebody comes in. It's not Joseph. It's somebody else comes in and basically says, they ask, did you find him? Did you find Heathcliff? And he says, I saw Heathcliff and a woman walking on the moors hand in hand. And I yelled after them and I chased them. But when I got to them, it was just Heathcliff. And it was just his prints in the snow. And he was gone. And that's it. That's the end. And Nellie says something like, together again. And then it fades out.
Okay.
That's it. That's it.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, at this point, Isabella is still alive and is Mrs. Heathcliff, because when Mr. Lockwood comes into from the storm or whatever and is asking for lodging or a guide or whatever, he says, can I at least get some tea? And Isabella kind of looks up looks at Heathcliff like, can I? And then she leaves. That's basically the only time we really see her other than in the retelling. And he says, is that, is the lady of the house Mrs. Heathcliff? And Heathcliff says yes. And that's it. And we are not led to believe that she died like she did in the book.
Oh, weird.
So how did yours end, Keri?
I feel like my adaptation kind of forgot about Isabella. Like the whole thing where she finds out she's pregnant, she leaves the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
But she actually runs into Edgar when she's like running away instead of, running, to Nellie. Mm-hmm. She runs into Edgar, and like basically he's just like, screw you for like doing this, you're on your own. And it just kind of like cuts off from there, and then we're back to quote present day, where Heathcliff was like looking back in his memory, so we're back to present day, and
Mm-hmm.
we just have Linton here, who we assume is Isabella's son. We never get like the connection,
Right.
you know? And so it just kind of cuts off there. But my ending, is where we go, like I said, we go back to present day because we went through all the memories. He's just was standing there the whole time remembering all this stuff. We
Mhm.
come back to present day and we have the whole story with Linton and Kathy getting married and then dying. And we have the Harriton and Kathy storyline still, but it's like super vague and, kind of sucks in my opinion because like I said, like Heathcliff should be meaner. Like, and he's not that mean. Like I mean, just in the sense of like, I was like, the whole time going into this adaptation, I'm thinking, how is he going to be this mean? Like, I'm so interested to see this because they're so crazy in this book.
He's
And
straight
then
up abusive.
yeah, and they're being like kind of nice and not that like there's a point when Heathcliff in the book smacks Kathy on both sides of her face.
Mhm.
And I was like, how are they going to be doing this? This is going to be wild. And then I'm like, wait, what the heck is going on in this movie? Anyways, so they, in the movie, he's getting to the point where he's like dying, right? And he's seeing Catherine, he's like seeing her ghost, calling out to her ghost and things like that, like keeps distancing himself. And he sees Hareton and Kathy together, and like it almost like triggers him in the sense that reminding him of himself and Catherine. And so he leaves the room and he kills himself with a gun. And then Hareton hears it and runs to him. And like it's like brutal that we see him laying in bed and Hareton's like freaking out. Because in the story, he kind of like starves himself to death, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, that's how it
Okay.
ends. And oh, in the ending, we get to see them as little ghosts in the window, like spirits haunting the heights.
Okay. Okay. Lindsay, how did yours end?
Mine was pretty faithful to the book. Of course, we have Hareton because it is played by Matthew McFadden, and he's the best part of the movie.
Fair.
There's never really any instance of Kathy being mean or mocking Hareton for not being able to read.
Mhm.
They're just always really nice to each other. It's almost like they're not really flirty, but they realize that they have some kind of shared trauma. So they kind
Mhm.
of bond pretty quickly. But of course, Heathcliff is actually kind of mean. He's just not as crazy as Book Heathcliff. He does smack Kathy in the
Oh,
head.
really?
Yeah, when she's trying to escape and she's trying to get the key from him and she bites him and he hits her. There's also the scene where they're all eating together and Kathy's kind of like antagonizing him and he threatens to hit her and Hareton sticks up for her. She doesn't have to be like, "Oh, Hareton will stop you from hitting me." He does it on his own. He said, "Don't hit her." So, I thought that was interesting. But what happens is so we go back to when Mr. Lockwood is in Catherine's old bedroom. The branch is knocking on the window. It wakes him up and the whole thing with Catherine, she's out there. So Heathcliff had come into the room and he's like yelling, come back. Why don't you visit me like you visit him?" So apparently he just doesn't really leave that room. And what happens is in the morning, Nellie is outside, like walking the grounds, and she notices that the window is open and it's like banging against the house. So she goes upstairs to check on Heathcliff, and he's just.
Okay.
Oh, I forgot to add, I actually have a scene. This reminded me of that. I actually have a scene. You know how in the book he kind of insinuates that he opened Catherine's coffin?
Yeah.
In my adaptation, there is a part where he's almost like having like some kind of like episode where he's seeing Catherine. He digs up her grave and gets in the coffin with her and lays down with her in the
This is
coffin, and he thinks he sees like a real person, but it's actually like bones in there.
Mhm.
this is why I think I wish my adaptation had what happened after Kathy died. You know, Catherine dies, and then Heathcliff lives for another like 20 years after that,
Mm-hmm.
becoming more and more like haunted by the memory of her, and becoming more and more obsessed with, you know, consuming anything that was hers and taking back anything that could have, you know, been a part of what led to her death. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I missed that.
Yeah.
I will
And-
say I think Laurence Olivier was an amazing Heathcliff. He was so rough and mean and just cruel. And I feel like if we had another hour of that movie,
Yeah.
you know, he could have just done so good going crazy, you
And
know,
you know
going
what's
mad.
so crazy is that, like, in the book, like, it's like this chunk, like, I want to say maybe a third. Like, Catherine dies
Yeah.
in the first third. And you know what? Heathcliff doesn't really mention Catherine like a ton in the rest of the book, but you just know all the actions
Mm-hmm.
are because of what he's been through
Yep.
with Catherine and her family.
Mhm.
Yep.
And so, like, that's what makes it so intense. But, like, she's only alive for, like, the first little bit. Like,
Yeah.
she's not even in it for that long.
Yep. So,
That's crazy.
with all of that being said, what are our final verdicts? Carrie, book or movie? Or
I'm going to
show?
have to go book for sure.
Lindsay?
Yeah, I'm going book.
I mean, I'm going to say book just because my movie didn't have half of the book and
Yeah,
was
your
the good
movie
half.
cut out so much. I can't believe that.
Was the good half, you know? It was the really crazy half.
Yeah.
Okay, well then. That it's I mean, for 3 different movies, not a single one really quite hit, you know, with 3
Yeah.
different adaptations. So that leads us to the question of our episode. Knowing what we know now about the differences in these adaptations, what are we wanting to see in the new movie? I mean, obviously, I want to see the other half of the book.
Yeah. Yeah. I am curious if there's like any other recommendations of other adaptations we should watch, but for this new one, I mean, this is where I got that inspired by the greatest love story of all time, because that's what is said on that specific trailer. And when I saw that after, like, I mean,
That
at
ain't
first when you're watching
love.
the trailer, when you're watching the trailer and you've never read the book, you're like, oh, this is going to be really cool. And then you read the book and then you watch it, you're like, what the hell are you talking about? But
This
honestly,
is
I'm really hoping to see like the act, like I kind of want this movie to go there. I want it to go there with the anger. I want it to go there with how dark it is. Like I kind of want it to go like the extra mile that I'm not seeing in the adaptation.
mhm,
I'm not going to lie, like I think that like whenever I was reading it, I've only seen Jacob Elordi in like two things, and it's Euphoria and Frankenstein. And like literally those, if you've seen both those things, he's kind of intense and insane in both of those movies and
mhm.
shows. So I feel like his essence, like I said before, I'm really looking for the essence of Heathcliff and the intensity of Heathcliff. I feel like he could 100% pull it off
Mhm.
for
Yeah.
sure. What
Lindsay,
do you
what are you
guys
hoping
think?
for?
I agree with Carrie. I just want more of the obsessive nature between Catherine and Heathcliff. Like
Mhm.
they just it was too flirty and almost cutesy,
Yeah.
and I need it to be ugly.
Yep.
Yes, ugly, exactly. Like I don't want it to be I'm afraid that this adaptation is going to take it where it's sexy. I I don't really necessarily want it to be sexy. I mean, I'm assuming it's going to be sexy, so I got to probably put it into a different category and not necessarily compare the two. But like you said, I want it to be ugly.
See, this, again, this is not a love story.
Mm-hmm.
This is manipulative and abusive obsession,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I want to see Mike Flanagan, Wuthering Heights.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think he could bring that creep, that gothic, that dark.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't like horror. As a general rule, it's not my jam at all. But what I have seen of Mike Flanagan, he is really able to lean into that darker nature of people. And that is who Heathcliff is. That is who Catherine is. And I would love to see that. I don't think that we're gonna. I think they're gonna cheese this up. And I'm
yeah. I mean, I'm still kind of excited about it because it looks fun.
Yeah. If nothing else, it's fun.
Yeah, it looks fun. I like Margot Robbie too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very interested the interpretation that they're going to take on it. It looks very beautiful.
I also think if they go really hard into, like, just don't be true to the book. You know what I mean? It could actually be an epic love story if they take out all of the gothic parts of it, the darker side of it. Lighten the whole thing up, make it some star-crossed lovers crap. I think that could actually work.
Yeah.
Then you gotta change the name.
Yeah.
Please.
Well, I have seen a theory that the title is in quotes, like it's quote Wuthering Heights. And I've seen a theory floating around that it is where the main character that's playing Catherine, she is reading Wuthering Heights and picturing her life in this, I don't know. Like she's picturing it happening to her in her current life. Like it's not necessarily an adaptation. People are very weird about it being quoted. Like if you look at the title, it says quote Wuthering Heights. So
could be interesting.
I don't know.
Well, one of us is probably going to watch it really soon, and we'll let y'all know what we think.
Oh, yeah. I'm in that movie theater. You know I am.
I think I'm probably going to be. I don't go to the theater very often, but this might be one I make an exception for. So, Well, guys, that wraps up our episode on Wuthering Heights. Don't forget to join us on socials to talk about which Wuthering Heights adaptation you love most, even if it wasn't one of these three. We'd love to hear about others. If you are going to watch the new one, let us know what you think as well. You can follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Blue Sky. And of course, we would love some more suggestions. We love our listener suggestions. You can click on the link in our bio and submit any of your favorite adaptations to our submissions form. We'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, don't settle for the creepy foster brother. That's weird. And we'll see you on the next chapter of Based on a Book. Bye.
Bye.